You either, it's like, it's true. I want to go to common law real quick. And give me the Black's Law. Common Law, 4th edition. I want you to read the common law, please. Queen Nika, can you?
It's somewhere around here.
The 4th is not in here?
Yeah, it's in here. It's right there, Sheik. It's on top of that big dictionary right there.
Reach that for her, good brother. Reach
Yeah,
that.
I'm sorry for you.
Reaching up to, please.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. It's up there.
Right there, the one with no back on it. No, the one with no back on it, right there. Boom.
That's a 4th?
Should be.
That ain't
That's
a
the
4th.
4th edition.
Whoa, that is a dictionary.
Right, no. That's unabridged.
It's like this.
I can tell from here. Anyway, keep it moving.
Yeah.
The treaty, the secret treaty of Verona, is the agreement of Romans, Europeans. Remember when we were saying Romans? It's not insultive. That means red man. All right. That's the hybrid. It's not. It's not an insult. All right. So we're talking about collectively the European nations, and understand Europe is not even their name. It's given to them in honor because they were put under the care of Queen Europa, who herself is a Moabitess. Are we clear? This is why the Pope will always have a facsimile of the King of Freising on his coat of arms. King of Freising is a Moor. You understand? We're talking about Freising. Let's say this, and so we can get so easily distracted. Freising is the original name of the area that you call Germany now. That Moor that you see on the coat of arms of the popes of Rome is the King of Freising. Superseding. Are we clear? All right. Got that? Can you read the common law, please, good brother?
I'm almost there. Just plain kind. Here it is.
No, I want you to read here. Now,
The common
I
law.
want you all to pay attention, read between the lines.
Common law.
Read between the lines.
Okay, Black Law, 4th edition, common law, as distinguished from the Roman law, the modern civil law, and the Canaan law, and other systems of common law is the body of law and juristic theory, which was originated, developed, and formulated, and is administered in England, and has obtained amongst most of the states and peoples of Anglo-Saxon stock.
Now, go ahead. Yes. Yeah. Now,
Continue.
now it pertains to what? Go ahead.
As distinguished from law created by the enactment of legislatures, the common law comprises the body of those principles and rules of action relating to the government and security of persons and property, which derive their authority solely from usages and customs of immemorial antiquity.
Stop right there. Now, this is based in the rule of honor your mothers and fathers, that your days may be longer upon the earth plane which the Lord thy God has given thee. In civil law, it converts to this, that you must be able to associate with, to regurgitate, to demonstrate the traditions and customs of your ancient mothers and fathers in order for the common law to take precedence over the Roman law, the civil law, the canon law, and other forms of law, etc., protecting persons and property, etc.
Of immemorial antiquity.
Now, this is the concept, and this is why I wanted you to read this to get this understanding, because a lot of times people start invoking the common law thinking it just applies because the information is powerful, or that they can preserve their estate. where you go into in the uniform commercial codes thinking they can make a claim on the estate and therefore be creditor, etc., when they're not heirs to the estate and they can't demonstrate a connection to their ancient mothers and fathers immemorial, so they must name the bloodline or nationality to even have the claim to use the common law. And a lot of people don't know that. And when people are promoting the UCCs and selling packages, they are very careful not to tell people that because they can't get the sale. But when people start using this stuff, this is where, when they start hitting them walls, and then the European administrators of trust in the state says, you can't use the Constitution or the common law to as a defense. You're not a party to it. What they're meaning that you cannot use any covenant of law to secure your estate or your claim on the estate because you're not a party to it.
Or from the judgments and decrees of what you're just saying,
Yes.
of the courts recognizing, affirming, and enforcing such usages and customs, and in the sense, particularly the ancient,
Yes.
unwritten law of England.
So now, and then you must know about the Moors, the Danes, and the Dubs, and you must know the Renaissance. Because on the surface, the average person will assume they're talking about the Europeans, hybrids, and not the European nobles. Are we clear? Now, this is why you must know your history so that you don't get disconnected, because most of us suffer from that disassociation.
That's right.
This is also why a lot of times Europeans, when they get frustrated of us marching and praying and doing all kinds of Negro stuff, till you get frustrated, why don't you all leave us alone, give us a break? Why don't you go back to your Negro leaders that keep selling you all back into slavery?
Right.
Really, that's what they're talking about. They're really talking about, we're doing more to preserve your law than you are. Matter of fact, we got all kind of rituals wearing your fez, and you won't even wear your fez, and you're going to talk about you own property. You're out to lunch. You're incompetent. They racist. Racist, the human species. You know, we're so corrupted. We're so misguided by our so-called leadership. This is what Drew Ali said when he says examine the conditions
This
and
is what
recognize
people in
that
the South.
the life that we're living, we're violating our own law, but we don't know it because we keep associating our law with Europeans. Do you understand? But anyway,
And I just want to add on.
go ahead, add to that, please.
The
Oh, this is great, Ron.
regular Islam, we got
No, we
one.
don't want all that. Just
You
We
want
let
all
it
got
of it?
one. We got one reference, Black's Law Dictionary, right? As just a general rule of study. Also, encyclopedias. Very old encyclopedias out here for research. But also, you look the same word up in different sources. And the older sources you can get, the better, as we already know. But as we speaking about common law, this is very important because when we dealing with common law, we got to understand, where does the common law come from? And like Grand Sheikh Taj just mentioned, you got to deal with bloodline when you're dealing with common law, because that's what is acknowledged as custom law or common law. What you also have termed is customary law, i.e. tradition, which means something that predates the modern day era of time and usage. So in our history with our forefathers, we was known for what we call Muslim customary law. That's important because we are Muslims. And this is one of the reasons why it's used as a declaration, even within the language of our documents, is to call upon that bloodline.
Yes.
And we get confused because we start dealing with the practices of it and the hadiths on what people say about it, and not really calling on the enforcement of the customary law that's really why it's worded that way. When you look at our charter, and even looking at our authority and things that the Prophet used to back what he was doing, he went back to Muslim customary law.
Yes, he did.
And this is why even in our authority, he might have filed some things with the county and Cook, is what we keep looking at, but he told you where we really derive our authority from. You got to understand, so when he's talking about the great Quran, of Muhammad, that's going back to Muslim customary law as well. And that's not just dealing with the Quran of Mecca. The Quran of Muhammad is different from
Right.
the Quran of Mecca.
That's right.
You're getting into
Yes.
different dimensions here. Yes, sir.
So that's why when he leads us back, he says, where's your nationality? Most American, what's his nationality? Most American by. But we're descended of Lawful born in America. Because if you study Imam Muhammad from 576 AD, it shows you that his bloodline were Moors. As they made the transition from Asia to North Africa.
Absolutely.
Set up those kingdoms.
And,
Yes.
and all of the prophets
Yes.
going back.
One interjection. Hold on, just one, brother. Interject what he just whispered something to me. Good about Jefferson. And this is what you must know about the so-called founding fathers being deists. It's another subject matter we need to go into, but make the statement again.
This is why Thomas Jefferson, when he was inaugurated, he took his oath on the Quran.
There you go. But you must know that they
Of
were
Muhammad.
dealing science. They weren't dealing creed, spookism. Are we clear?
Islam.
Pseudo-religion.
Let me
Continue.
read this. The word custom in the encyclopedia. They have a whole page on the word custom, but you only scan through it and get what applies to the subject matter. Even with a dictionary, to give you several different definitions, but you have to scroll down to the one that best suits how it's being used or how you need it to be used. I.e., here at common law, the principal requirements for a valid customs are that it has been enjoyed as a right, peacefully, continuously, and uninterruptedly from immemorial. That it is reasonable, certain, and obligatory. That goes back to what I was saying about how to get you into the commercial law. Commercial law is based on what's obligatory. Contract, agreement,
Covenants.
covenant. Meaning that with a commercial agreement or with a corporation that you're dealing with, not government, it's all based on if you obligated or not. If your obligation is based on if you signed an agreement to be obligated. If you haven't, then there's no law or no obligation to you at that point. So your simple question to them is, do we have a contract? If you don't have a contract with them, there's nothing enforceable here.
And to discuss.
So that's one thing. Let me keep reading. Not such that persons may choose whether or not to be bound by it, that it is confined in some it is confined to some defined locality. In some respects, these requirements seem more stringent than they are. Thus, enjoyment from time immemorial will be presumed from evidence of continuous enjoyment as far back as living testimony can go.
Now,
You understand that?
Interjection. Go back to the state of mind of your ancient mothers and fathers. Noble Drawley. See the relationship?
Yes.
As far back as you can go, as evidence is presented. Now you see why the prophet takes us back to timelines of our forefathers? Because he's setting the precedent of what was established before. So he's showing the connection of us modern day, being Moorish Americans like you said earlier, that yes, we're named or referred to as Moorish Americans now, but we are descendants of the ancient ones, the ancient Moabites. He said, who are the Moorish? They're descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and the southwestern shores of Africa. You understand? So now you have to go back into their customary laws in order to confine them or construe their particular laws pertaining to that statement. That's how you eliminate the statutory laws and you go back to the Muslim customary laws, because those are the laws of your forefathers.
Or you can't knock the chess pieces off the table. See what they've done, they've put on contemporary pieces on the chessboard and been beating people up with it.
Islam, more
And they're based on fraud, are we clear? And misrepresentations. For you to counter that,
1 second.
you must know what the pieces are supposed to have originally done. And if you don't or can't demonstrate it, that tells them you have no connection to your ancient mothers and fathers. This would break up the connection of the illustrious works of, that's why they don't teach Renaissance. That's also why they don't teach Moorish science. They'll talk about religion. You know, Raleigh set up what? What's this charter say? Divine and national movement. Does that say religious and national movement?
No, divine.
It says divine and national movement. You have asked half the people to go over the 7 principles of the phenomena that comprises divine law, and most of them can't even tell you.
So,
Unfortunately. Go ahead.
no, we have a question.
Go ahead, Grand Sheikh.
Peace, man.
Greetings to yourself and the family.
Islam. Peace. 2 questions. One, with regard to Moors that use the UCC process to detach from the straw. If you could speak on that.
Yes. Yes, real quick. Yeah, let me go on that.
All right.
Now, keep in mind the operations of the trying to capture that is based in House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress. And I'm going to read a little bit for everyone to understand, because we need to know why certain things are done. So let's go into that first, all right? And then I'm going to go into the Secret Treaty of Verona, congressional records. Let me do that first to let them know what they're battling. This is for everybody. I'm not going to go into every one. I'm going to go into the United States congressional records. And keep in mind, Canaan Land, or Canada, the corporation, is registered down here in the corporate state of Delaware, all coming under the crown. Both of them are simply British colonies. Are we clear? And they're all operating under the Secret Treaty of Verona, the sources of their political guidebook to do things to us and to undermine the Republic, which is strategically principled in all of their operations to counter our right of claim of a state. This is 1916 when it was entered into the record, although this is earlier from 1822. Senator Owen, this is the House of Representatives, and for those researchers, look for the 61st Congress, congressional record at the Senate, Secret Treaty of Verona, extract from 1916. Senator Owen, I wish to put into the record the Secret Treaty of Verona of November the 22nd, 1822, showing what this ancient conflict is between the rule of the few and the rule of the many. And I wish to call the attention of the Senate to this treaty because it is the threat of this treaty which was the basis of the Monroe Doctrine. It throws a powerful white light upon the conflict between monarchical government and government by the people. The Holy Alliance, under the influence of Metternich, the Premier of Austria, in 1822, issued this remarkable secret document, Secret Treaty of Verona. And I'm going to go into just the first 3 articles, although there are 7 because of time constraint, because we're setting the foundation to give people an understanding on why the Uniform Commercial Codes are being used today. The undersigned specially authorized to make some additions to the Treaty of the Holy Alliance. So when you're talking about the Treaty of the Holy Alliance, understand that you're talking about the Secret Treaty of Verona and the continuation of what is called the conquest of civilization via the Christian Crusades. Continuing. Excuse me. After having exchanged their respective credentials, have agreed as follows. Article 1. The high contracting parties, being convinced that the system of representative government is equally as incompatible with the monarchical principles as the maxim of sovereignty of the people with the divine right, engage mutually in the most solemn manner to use all that their efforts to put an end to the system of representative governments in whatever country it may exist in Europe, and to prevent it being introduced in those countries where it is not yet known. Article 2. It cannot be doubted that the liberty of the press is the most powerful means used by the pretended supporters of the rights of nations To the detriment of those princes, the high contracting parties promise reciprocally to adopt all proper measures to suppress it, not only in their own states, but also in the rest of Europe. Article 3. Convinced that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep nations in the state of passive obedience, which they owe to their princes. The high contracting parties declare it to be their intention to sustain in their respective states those measures which the clergy may adopt with the aim of ameliorating their own interest, intimately connected with the preservation of the authority of the princes and the contracting powers in offering their thanks to the Pope for what he has already done for them and solicit his constant cooperation in their views of submitting the nations. I'm going to make some subsequent comment on each one of them to bring you contemporary to understand how these operate. So whenever religion is being presented to you and in the modern era is used as an opiate, it is used as a solace system, as an opiate, and for putting the people in a docile mental state, for controls from a governmental operation of the deputy knights of the popes of Rome. Are we clear? So most people, as soon as you start talking religion, they get all starry-eyed and think you're talking about Jesus, God, Muhammad, etc. And you're talking political controls, and you're talking about the people being submitted to the popes of Rome, not to Jesus. Article 3 is where your 501c3 later comes in with Skull and Bones member Lyndon Baines Johnson when he got rid of Kennedy for trying to bring the gold back in a countermeasure to the operations that took place in 1871, etc., and 1933 with the Coming Out Party, and the activities that took place with Skull and Bones member Woodrow Wilson as a countermeasure to Noble Drew Ali, which undermined the Republic, which is established in Article 1 of the Secret Treaty of Verona and registered in the Library of Congress, in the Congressional Records. And this dismisses any claim by any so-called politician or so-called black leader scholar guys to pretend they don't know this information and to pretend that they don't know what Drew Ali is really doing or avoiding this kind of conversation. You already know that they're COINTELPRO operatives, undoubtedly. Now I'm going to go to the Congressional Records. Same Congressional Records. This is registered in the Congressional Records so people can't talk about, well, I don't know that. It's according to my belief. It ain't got a daggone thing to do with beliefs. This is documented stuff. And so then we're going to give an overview of commercial codes and go from there. Give me a minute because I'm scrolling through the lesson book.
Yes, my lord. Verona, is that with a V?
Yeah, V.
Islam, why he's
Go keep talking.
scrolling for that? When we looking at, you said trying to detach from the straw man, right? Moors are using the UCCs to try to detach from the straw man.
Right.
Now we got to remember that the straw man is a corporation. The corporation is a DBA or a agent corporation of the mother corporation of the U.S.
Roman Curia.
It's an agency of the agents of U.S. corporation. All right, so Negro, black, and colored, just like the Hispanic, Puerto Rican, even white, black, they're all agencies of the corporate wardship. So now, with that being said, you're trying to detach from that. You can't detach from a corporation using the UCC. And this is what a lot of Moors are misunderstanding, that the corporation, remember, is considered an artificial entity. It's already property of the slaveholder. The only one that can free the entity from the slaveholder is the individual himself in his natural capacity. He cannot do it in an artificial or corporate capacity because a slave, even though we're not slaves, but if we hold in a title of slave or property,
Can't own property.
which is wardship, doesn't have any rights. Therefore, in a straw man capacity, he doesn't even have a voice. So therefore, he can't disclaim or disassociate himself because he's property. He needs permission from the slaveholder to do so. So when you go into the UCC game, you're already talking about the Negro or the wardship is under contract already. He can't dissolve himself. Only the creditor can dissolve the debtor. The debtor can't dissolve the creditor. So you can't play the UCC game to try to disassociate from the straw man. We're natural persons that were enslaved,
Bound freemen.
but we're bound free men, so therefore we gotta declare our freedom. That's the only way we can dissociate from the straw man. We do that through our Muslim or our Moorish customary laws. That's why on the documents it says through the traditions and the usage of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Because what that does, it ties us back into our ancient Moorish customary law. We can't use corporate law to proclaim our nationality because the nationality is under natural law. It's protected by constitutional rights and immunities. Commercial law is not. UCC is commercial law. UCC represents uniform commercial codes. A code is not a law. A statute is not a law. A code can only exist off something that's natural or real pre-existing it. So a code in itself becomes artificial in nature. Only if it's construed in harmony with natural law can it be used by us. But if the particular code is against the order of the Constitution or natural law, is what we call
void on its
notwithstanding. It's void of law.
Void on his face.
Okay,
All right, let me go on.
Yes.
So with regard to code not being law, could you apply Heard's revised statute to that statement?
Yeah, this is what happens. Everything, anytime we use a code or a statute, we're only using it to present to them their obligation to support that which already exists upon which the code or the statute is bent or serves to make reference to. They're more acknowledgments, but the power is always the supreme law or the supreme covenant. As an example, let's look at this, and this is for anyone that's approaching uniform commercial codes. Remember, what we're not saying to people don't use them. We're not saying to people no. We're saying to people to look at what you're doing, pay attention to what you're doing, understand what it is. Understand that commercial means commerce. Commerce means trade. Unalienable rights cannot be converted, transferred, sold, or traded to another. When you're talking about preserving rights, etc., you're not talking about privileges. When you're talking commerce, you're talking strictly trade. Now, in order to be able to talk strictly trade, you must have power of attorney of self. Therefore, in law, it is called impropria persona sui juris, whereas one is in one's own proper person, and one can prove oneself to be descendable of persons who have right of claim to land, which is the source of resource to be a creditor to anything. Now, the relationship that goes on in North America is one of colonial operations by Europeans who are occupying Morocco, which is the land, under the jurisdiction of a colonial operative colony styled as United States Corporation Company, distinguished from the land. This is why you have to do the two seals, or what you call the dual seal. You have the one seal, what you have is two nation states essentially that are intricately involved or converged. This is called the Union, etc. This is also why you say, when they say you have the people of the United States in order to form a more perfect union, and dealing with the issue of our progeny, which means your offspring, you're preserving a right for them. Let's go, or right and properly. Let's go to Article 6 of the Constitution, and keep in mind, because of time constraint, when we finish, go to Act 6 in the Divine Constitutional Bylaws after I say this. Article 6 of the American Constitution. All debts and contracts entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be binding against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. And all treaties made, or which shall be made in pursuance thereof, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Any laws or constitution of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So now we're talking about the supreme law of the land. We're talking about a universal venue. Are we clear? That includes diversity that's expressed in Article 3, Section 2. So now you have people from different nation states, and you have a political forum by which all grievances, all issues of law are already established. It's called stare decisis and res judicata. Therefore, when the Europeans, through their subversive means, which we just read in the secret treaty of Verona, to overthrow the Republic secretly, this is where you have the coup that took place in 1871. Knowing that they also adjourned sine die 1861 without day, and therefore were dissolved even then. Under the problem we have is that the Asiatics were still not cognizant of their estate rights, or they weren't organized in such a manner by which they had a political forum to make right of claim. Therefore, the corporate states, i.e., were what you call escheating their estates by virtue of these people being declared not descendable. One, they were transacting business in another man's name, which makes them agency. Two, not being in their proper person, they can't claim estate because in law of estate, it makes them not descendable. Now, four, they're not operating on constitutional principles, which is the covenant by which their estate was protected. Five, they start calling themselves crayons. All of which makes them, and then Europeans start calling themselves Americans and stealing the birthright.
That's right.
And the Moors didn't contest that. As a matter of fact, the Moors started calling them Americans. Then the Europeans under Horace Greeley took on the title of white that belongs to the Moors. Then the Moors start saying they're white people, which assigns them the sovereign right.
That's right.
So here you have incompetent heirs that don't know they're heirs, that think human beings are crayons, my light-skinned, orange-skinned girlfriend, all that kind of stuff, and how you like my light-skinned black leather coat. I'm telling you, you got these people that's totally out to lunch. They got all kinds of gods, though, always broke, don't know nothing about divine law, serious. And they talking about owning property. You got that absolutely right. And the Grand Sheik just read the common law. They can't even trace back to the customs and traditions. They don't know the distinction between beliefs and religion.
Nope.
They don't know what divine law is. They're totally disconnected, and they're arrogant with it. Anyway, let's go on. So let's go to congressional records again. And this is again where none of these so-called scholars can talk about they don't know what this is about, or that they don't know what Drew Ali was doing, because they know exactly what he was doing. Now, this is James Traficant addressing the House, and you already know they bumped him off a couple months ago. You know that, right? Faked his demise. A detractor hit a pole in his farm and turned over upside. Right. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, this is addressing the House. We are here now in Chapter 11, and remember we're qualifying why people are using uniform commercial codes. We are now here in Chapter 11, and members of Congress are official trustees. So if they're trustees, they're talking about an estate, aren't they? They're talking about a trust, aren't they? And if they're trustees, they daggone sure ain't the owners of the estate. So they daggone sure can't be the creditors. Anyway, presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity, not country, entity, in world history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. Oh, they trying to figure out how they can still hold this stuff together because it's done. There are some who say it's a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act of March 9, 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt as being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session, June the 5th of 1933. When they get rid of Drew Ali, 29. Oh, they coming out now. All right. Joint resolution to suspend the gold standard. Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. They're telling you what? They are openly enforcing Article 1 of the secret treaty of Verona. All right. Let me see. All right. Joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolve the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental officers, officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. They're defunct, don't exist, all departments, all the officers done, kaput, popcorn is out the basket. Get the point? All right, now, the receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers.
That's right.
Via the United Nations, the World Bank, and International Monetary Fund, that's the IMF. All United States officers, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status, in name only, under emergency war powers with the constitutional Republican form of government, for the United States, dissolved, right? And so the receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States, and this form of government is known as a democracy. So in 1933, they came out the closet, admitted the overthrow, and this is where the democracy order came in, although it was set up in 1871. Now, keep in mind, Noble Drew Ali is a countermeasure, born in state of North Carolina, actually North Carolina State, 1886, duly and divinely appointed to reverse these operations from the popes of Rome, continuing the Inquisition operations against the Moors. So when you go into history and you look at Pope Urban III, Pope Philip III, Innocent III, the Inquisition operations, you know it's against the Moors and Yahudi, who they now call them Moors and Jews, who now they call them black people, Negro, black, and colored, whatever brands they're using this week. We're talking documented history. Now, those who run government must belong to secret societies because they must preserve the truth for their selfish selves. This is why they bring them marching Negro, keep hope alive Negro guys in, give them 33 degrees and a kufi and a fez in secret, and give them some 501c3 kickback from Skull and Bones, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and pretend they don't know about who the Moors are while they got a Moorish fez dressed in jewels with the tassel pinned down. Let's continue. So so this act was instituted and established by transferring and or placing the office of the Secretary of the Treasury to that of the Governor of the International Monetary Fund. Keep in mind, these public laws is what they're really using when they're trying to discharge. Keep in mind. Public Law 94-5, 64, page 8, section HR 13955 reads in part, the United States Secretary of Treasury receives no compensation for representing the United States. Why does he not receive any compensation? Because the office don't exist. That's why. Anyway, gold and silver were such a powerful money, etc., during the founding of the United States of America that the founding fathers, the deists, declared that only gold and silver coin can be money in America. Right. And since gold and silver coins were heavy and inconvenient for a lot of transactions, they were stored in banks and a claim check was issued as a money substitute. And so people traded their coupons as money or currency, dealing with electricity, principal electricity, because we're still dealing with energies. All right, currency is not money. but a money substitute. Redeemable currency must promise to pay a dollar equivalent in gold or silver money. Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, make no such promises and are not money. A Federal Reserve note is a debt obligation of the federal United States government and not money.
That's right.
The federal United States government and the U.S. Congress were not and have never been authorized by the Constitution for the United States of America to issue currency of any kind. But only lawful money, gold and silver coin, and logically, you know, those who enforce the Constitution as Article 10, Section 1. Article 1, Section 10, Article 1, Section 10, etc. And being Moorish Americans, being part and parcel of this said government, our job is to enforce that Constitution. Now, it is essential that we comprehend the distinction between real money and paper money, translation counterfeit and money. Substitute. One cannot get rich by accumulating money substitutes. One can only get deeper in debt, and we the people no longer have any money. Most Americans have never been paid any money for a long time, perhaps not in their entire lives. Now can you comprehend why you feel broke? Now then you understand why you are bankrupt along with the rest of the country. Now I'm going to skip up and I'm going to go into the basis upon which the UCCs are. Hold on. Let me see here. Hold on. Because we're making mention of the birth certificate because we know it's a bottomry instrument. All right.
Grand Sheik.
It's all right.
Also, keep in mind, you asked about Heard's revised statutes. The statutes of Illinois at that time were the only statutes, well, one of the very limited statutes that was still construed in harmony with the common law. And that's why one of the reasons why the prophet went to Illinois and set up the nation.
I'll just continue to read so I don't break the pattern so that you all can try to catch where they're operating from. Where they're operating from and where the people are operating from trying to get remedy. It's within House Joint Resolution 192. Now, so the Federal Reserve notes are unsigned checks written on a closed account. So they're unsigned checks written on a closed account. Now, keep in mind, the first original certificates themselves were the checks. Now people don't know the difference between the checks and Federal Reserve notes and greenbacks and original certificates to make their claim on the finance, which is the original checks. So the original greenback certificates are the checks. They don't even know that. Oh, we're out to lunch. Anyway, so the Federal Reserve notes are unsigned checks written on a closed account. Federal Reserve notes are an inflatable paper system designed to create debt through inflation, which is devaluation of the currency, which is what's taking place right now.
Exactly.
Now, whenever there is an increase in the supply of money substitute in the economy without a corresponding increase in the gold and silver backing, inflation occurs. Inflation is an invisible form of taxation that irresponsible governments inflict on their citizens. The Federal Reserve Bank, who controls the supply of and movement of Federal Reserve notes, has everybody fooled. They have access to an unlimited supply of FRNs, paying only for the printing costs of what they need.
That's right.
And Federal Reserve notes are nothing more than a promissory notes, for U.S. Treasury securities, which are called T-bills. Pay attention to that because we're going to go into the Clearfield Doctrine. A promise to pay the debt to the Federal Reserve Bank. There is a fundamental difference between, quote-unquote, paying a debt and, quote-unquote, discharging a debt. To pay a debt, you must pay with value or substance, i.e. gold and silver, barter, or commodity. The Federal Reserve notes, with Federal Reserve notes, you can only discharge a debt. Keep this in mind. With the Federal Reserve notes, you're discharging. So most people are looking at just doing the signature thing or claiming to be the creditor and discharging. The Federal Reserve notes themselves are only a discharge. And you cannot pay a debt with a debt currency system. You cannot service a debt with a currency that has no backing in value or substance. No contract in common law is valid unless it involves an exchange of good and valuable consideration. Unpayable debt transfers power and control to the sovereign power structure that has no interest in money, law, equity, or justice because they have so much ill-gotten wealth already. Their lust is for power and control, and since the inception of central banking, they have controlled the fate of nations. Now, the Federal Reserve System is based on the canon law. Keep in mind when the Grand Sheik read about the common law, that in order for you to trump the Roman law, the civil law, the canon law, and other types of law, you can only trump them with the common law. And then, even then, you must be able to trace back to what? Your forefathers and the traditions and customs of immemorial antiquity, which means you must know the bloodline and you must know who you are. And that's what protects persons and properties. That's estates that everybody keep on trying to secure with the UCCs. Anyway.
Moors, be yourselves.
Yeah, be yourself. Anyway, so the Federal Reserve System is based on the canon law and the principles of sovereignty protected in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. In fact, the international bankers used a canon law trust as their model, adding stock and naming it a joint stock trust. And the U.S. Congress has passed a law making it illegal for any legal person to duplicate a joint stock trust, which they're trying to do with the UCCs. Now, this was done in 1873. Now, so they got no history too. Now, the Federal Reserve Act was legislated post facto to 1870, although post facto laws are strictly forbidden by the American Constitution, set at Article 1, Section 10, Section 9, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3. Now, the Federal Reserve System is a sovereign power structure, separate and distinct from the federal United States government. The Federal Reserve is a maritime lender, so we know that they're using admiralty law, and or maritime insurance underwriter to the federal United States, operating exclusively under admiralty maritime law. And the lender or underwriter bears the risk, and the maritime law compelling specific performance and paying the interest or premiums are the same. Now, assets of the debtor can also be hypothecated to pledge something as a security without taking possession of it as security by the lender or other underwriter. The Federal Reserve Act stipulated that the interest on the debt was to be paid in gold. This is to fulfill their inquisition operations. Keep that in mind. They came to steal our gold and silver. So they used fraudulent instruments, fraudulent foundation to do so. Now, there was no stipulation in the Federal Reserve Act for ever paying the principal, which means it's unpayable. Right. Pay attention to this and keep in mind with this next paragraph, when Drew Ali, when did the Prophet set up the old Canaanite temple?
1913 AD.
All right, now pay attention to this. Prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear allodial title to property. Free and clear of any liens or mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees, stockholders held legal title. The U.S. citizen, tenant, franchisee was registered as a beneficiary of the trust via his or her birth certificate. In 1933, the federal United States hypothecated all of the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their subjects, the 14th Amendment citizen, to the Federal Reserve System. I don't need to go any further. Right there, you can see the operations of Prophet Noble Drali, what he's doing. Can I pick a towel? As a countermeasure, you can see that the Europeans are operating on real fundamental history, and that they're operating as a countermeasure to Noble Drali. All you got to do is pay attention to politics and the timeline. Now, so to counter this, you must be able to be claimed as an heir to the estate, because there's no living bodies that signed that Constitution. And guess what happens if you're not in your proper person? Any instrument that is created by any person living, blah, 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 that has no bloodline connection to the heirs of the estate of the land, which is Morocco, which is under operations of a de facto corporate entity, which has been dissolved, mind you, they have no claim of estate. And people are using the UCCs trying to claim their estate when they ain't even claimed their own body. Are we clear? Now, but it doesn't mean that the UCCs doesn't operate in a proper venue of what they are. But it's operating for free men to regulate their commercial activities in contract law.
Islam, Brother Emmanuel.
They're trying to institute the same thing in other countries, democracy,
Right.
centralized bank system.
They're saying it right there in the
But
Treaty
stop.
of Verona.
They're not trying to
They're
set it
doing
up.
it.
They are doing
They
it.
are
They've
doing
been
it.
doing it.
They've been doing
And
it.
they disguising it under terrorist attacks and things, so they
Yes.
got to go over and neutralize what other people
Islamic
doing in their
terrorists.
country.
See,
But
and
when-
so that's why it's because that's the what?
That
The
is-
Crusades.
That's the Crusades.
All right.
Has always been.
Has
So let me
always
give
been.
you some substantive supports. Now, keep in mind when we're looking at constitution law, i.e. the republic that they've been working to overthrow. So no state shall enter into any treaty, right, or confederation, grant letters of marque on reprisal, coin money, or issue bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin as tender in payment of debts. Now that's the law. Now, under documented facts and by applying logistical and intelligent analysis, I don't believe the Supreme Court's ruling was observed in the House, like in the Hoover versus Allison case and that EVOT case, which most of y'all scholars make reference to. Now, again, I can't prove it, but I'm drawn to the fantastic, informational, and fact-supported conclusion that the United States government was executed in bankruptcy. Of course it is, but we just not taking liberties. And this was a timeline somewhere AD 1995-96. Again, now just as Congressman James Traficant had predicted. Now here momentarily is an interjection. We will dissect some of the vital parts of the text of Congressman James Traficant's speech addressing the House of Representatives. Now for study purposes, the actionable functionality and for law analysis, please do not hesitate to use a yellow highlight marker when you're going over the congressional records to note the primal and related sections of the speech which will give credence to the nature of and to the use and application of the word and position of reversioner in this particular instance. And this is for those who understand what reversioner is. That's where someone's reclaiming their estate. You can't reclaim an estate. You can't be a reversioner if you're not an heir. This is why you see Europeans that are aware of this. You don't see them filing no UCC1 financial statement. They're denouncing their U.S. citizenship, going to some other nation state, trying to nationalize, trying to open up some account. Why? Because you can't be a reversioner unless you're an heir. Therefore, you can't be a creditor unless you're an heir. Why? Because you're not dealing with money. You're dealing with transfers on an estate. Therefore, it's signature.
Signature, that's the money.
And it better be heirs to the Moors, because that's the land. Now, those who have known this information are starting to hit a wall. Doesn't mean they weren't sincere when they started, which means they keep on trying to reinvent the wheel that Drawley set for them, and you can't reinvent the wheel because there's rules to the game, and you can't slip in and start putting your hand in an estate that don't belong to you. Are we clear?
Property can't own
Now,
property.
let's keep in mind this. All of the so-called states are actually countries. Now, keep in mind, for y'all do some research right now, do research a little later on about this little raid they had in Texas about a week and a half ago, where they've been meeting down there to secede. Because remember, the commercial codes, which are based on Moorish law of commerce, they're ancient. They became uniform in about 1966 or 68 when they blackmailed the representatives of Texas State Republic to go along with their democracy fraud that they set up in 33, came out of the closet party with. That's when they became uniform. Because they had to kind of work this thing together so it don't fall apart. So first we must know how did uniform commercial codes come about. That's how it came about. That's number one. Now, number two, more and more in the last 25 years, the Europeans have been pushing uniform commercial codes because the middle class of the Europeans have been being dissolved. In other words, the phoenix bird is starting to eat its own tail. Now, the reason why, because the nations of the earth are starting to dump those UST bonds that are not backed by gold and silver. They're backed by birth certificates, marriage certificates, original manufacturer titles of origins on all people's cars and all this old stuff. Right? And Moors are nationalizing, which makes any name, i.e. connected to any estate, dead paper. Wizard of Oz,
That's right. Go see the
socks
wizard.
is curling up. So the Europeans going to tell you one thing, but another thing is really going on. Meanwhile, they're trying to sell as much of the estate as they can, which can't be done, but they're trying to do that, etc. So what you have going on right now, nations of the earth are systematically coming together to isolate them. That's called the BRICS nations and now the Mint nations, which are now converging. They're using all them UST bonds that are being held falsely as pristine to build infrastructure in other nation states, which is causing horrible problems. Because what they're going to tell them, you can't cash them T-bonds because they undermine themselves. So they got to eat it. So the Federal Reserve that was set up to counter Noble Ali is now eating their own defecation. So it's only a matter of time, presently, that this stuff is going to go off the cliff.
That's right.
Now, I get to challenge anybody with a UCC to go make a claim on some estate. Because they ain't going to have no money. And they're not going to gather enough of them Federal Reserves to collect enough gold and silver because they came here to steal your gold and silver. They ain't giving it to you. And if they sell you some gold, it's going to have tungsten in it. So you better have a claim on an estate. If you don't do anything else, you better declare your nationality. Because what's happening right now is that the heirs to the estate are going to have to be proven. And the wealthy Europeans already know that. So I suggest you all also go on your websites anywhere in the world. Just type in wealthy Americans denouncing their U.S. citizenship. They ain't Americans. They're Europeans running.
All right, peace, brother.
All right. Go ahead. Interject, brother.
No, it's a question. Islam, more.
Yes, Islam.
Islam.
I'd like to know if we are to enforce this Constitution. And behind the Constitution, are we supposed to live, I would say maybe backwards out of it, like as in rent and all these financial things that they want to confuse us with?
First thing I will ask you, when you say enforce this Constitution, which Constitution you making reference to?
Our Constitution, the Zodiac Constitution, which is the original as I know it.
You asking me, are we to enforce the Zodiac Constitution?
Are we to enforce, yes, the Constitution?
The Constitution is universal. Back to what we talked about the other day. We're going to use the concept the human constitution. All right, because
It's universal.
the human constitution is universal. It's nature's law, natural law. The Constitution is really not written. It's only written as a reference for man to comprehend.
Let me interject this to help a lot of brothers and sisters, because like I always tell people, and I told years ago, that not rejecting the UCCs, but talking about the dangers of the UCCs is really to understand them. And the issue that I'm making is status. Now look at this. When we're looking at House Joint Resolution 192, and you look at the public law, the fact is they can only be discharged. Anytime they send a bill, it's not really a bill. It's a statement against the account. It's really a coupon. Now, in your proper person, if you choose to use that, for anybody, the reason why you don't see people getting successes in droves is because the very fact that they must put remedy in it with the public law, that means everything is only discharged anyway. And so when you take that coupon and discharge it, what it does, it undermines them, but yet it lets them off the hook from a legal perspective, but it undermines them at the same time. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is why they won't let anybody be successful with the UCCs. Not because the process that they presented doesn't have a path. Oh, it does. But they keep blocking it. But for someone who really knows how to use it, I don't reject it because it helps speed this thing out. In other words, what it really does, it crashes the system. And they're still going to be forced to have to name the heirs. That's what I have to say about the UCCs. Not against it, just qualifying an understanding about it that a lot of people don't know.
All right, and brother, so with the behind this now, how do we? I would say, how would we go to these institutions and let them adhere to our status then?
See, the first thing, you declare your nationality because they already know who you are. You don't have to go to those institutions. You know, and this is why we have to, see, this is basically just what we keep saying. As soon as the people start waking up and using these instruments and remedies, they start changing the rules. That's why we have to do an international suit, which means they don't honor anything. They gave you another deck to get you off the Supreme Law, and then soon the people start running after that, then they change the rules on that. Which means enforce the Constitution. If that's the supreme law of the land, right? And they won't honor that, then they give you a commercial venue and trick people on putting unalienable rights on it, think you're going to preserve your rights and properties under Uniform Commercial Codes when that's protected under the common law. You see? They keep on trying to they keep giving you another deck and it's always marked. That's my point.
All right. Well, when it comes to the affidavits that we have, right? And if we now, would you suggest that we're able to use these affidavits against them along with their what is these things called? Along with their notary and along with our notary.
See, when you're in proper order, you don't need their. If you use their notaries, it's only as a token of affidavit, on the affidavit, notifying them of their obligation. But you don't need it. That's what you have. That's why you have the Moorish Science Temple. People, they need to learn to respect their own government. All of those are indications that the people are learning, but they're not yet competent. But that's fine if that's what they choose to do. Because we're all learning, we've got to graduate. It's like anything else. But what it demonstrates is that we ain't there yet. And that's fine. I'm not knocking it. I'm looking at an ongoing graduation battle. Right. But what we need to do is recognize that that's what it is. Are we clear?
Yes, of course. Islam.
But our real power is when we clean up our own political forum, which is the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, etc., which are really regencies. Right. So what you have is that Moors have become, or allow corruption to enter into, and they become reverse churches instead of the regencies that they really are. Right. You understand? Nevertheless, we must clean them up. And so like when brothers and sisters like yourselves are coming, when the youth come in, we got to make sure they got a foundation to build on, so that when the old heads get out of here, they can clean this mess up.
Right. So, but would we have a problem with having their de factos support actual affidavits and actual law, real law?
See, keep in remember, nothing they do is valid. All of this is an exercise of learning for us. Right. Anything that's created in color remains color. Any office under a colorable jurisdiction remains colorable. There is no de jure action that's necessary to refute a contract created in color. It remains void. It's just that the heirs ain't convinced. So our exercises is more or less to convince us.
And also to stay in harmony with the common law. Remember, your forefathers set up these ancient offices. And even the affidavits that we're speaking about, referred to as also common law writs. Common law writs was put together by our forefathers. So therefore, the county recorders, once again, is those offices are summons and obligated to record our documents on demand. Has always been. That's nothing new. That's nothing that the modern day United States of America started for us to do.
That didn't come with them. It came
So
with
we're not
us.
following their process. We got to realize that as a true national, as a sovereign, when we put affidavits together, that's an affirmation of truth or affirmation of fact, right? That's something that came from you. When we sign and seal it, we're just attesting because we have authority from our regency. Y'all raised us the sovereign power to govern your affairs. So that means that we're just witnessing and putting a seal from our government on it, saying that we attest that this person, natural person, came before us and made a testimony that they're going to do or not to do certain things. Now you take that document down to the public record and file it for the public record only for the purposes that other sovereigns can go back and verify that you made this public statement.
And to put them on notice, because remember what's happening here is that they're administering a state of heirs who are, for the most part, disconnected. They're suffering from cognitive dissonance. They don't know constitutional law. They don't know the common law, but they want to solve problems that have been set upon them by virtue of these subject matters that they themselves are not astute in. When the very fact of nationalization requires civic instruction or the enforcement of these instruments, which are ancient covenants.
That's a civic duty and a civic responsibility for us. So it's not that we're kind of like going and asking permission or going to a de facto corporation. The county clerk is ancient and organic. Whether or not they're organic in their concept or what they're coming to the office to do is irrelevant. You hold them to their constitutional responsibility. The fact that they're claiming to be and hold the integrity of the office, you hold them to that responsibility.
But you must know the office.
We know they de facto. We know that they're operating under the state statutory. We know that. But when we go there, we're not asking them to do a statutory filing. We're asking them to do a common law filing. So what you're doing is you're forcing them to do their job. Don't look at it from any subordinate position that they're doing something statutory or we're asking them for permission. The reason why they don't want to file it is because you're telling them to do their job, which they don't want to do their job. So we put pressure on them to do their job. Don't opt out. Don't acquiesce to what they're doing. To go a UCC, here's another thing with the UCCs.
You've agreed to another form.
The UCC has its own filing department. So it's easy to file something in the UCC department. So a lot of Moors, because they're getting opposition in the county clerks, in the Register of Deeds department, they'd rather go to the UCC department because there's less resistance. So they're taking an affidavit from a common law venue and from a governmental and a republic perspective, and they're going to try to file it in the UCC's department. Only because it's easier to do so, because they get a file number. But that file number is construed as a commercial instrument and not as a common law instrument.
Or birthright instrument, which is meaning that it's like plugging your printer into your phone instead of a computer. You can say it's plugged in, but you will not get the results.
Exactly.
In other words, let's look at this. And this, as we was talking about, it's like we was talking about last night. Let's look at this. Let's be honest, right? These corporate states, everybody's talking about how broke they are, right? Keep in mind, or keep this in mind. For all the millions of natural people that file Uniform Commercial Code instruments, right? Mm-hmm. Right? With these different corporate state entities, right? Mm-hmm. Which are known de facto orders. But they're generating revenues or energies, right? So they're going to them like they're the sovereign and asking for recognition and permission, right? So by them being heirs, they're assigning them in trust at the moment they transfer the document because they really have no authority, no seats at all. But being heirs and dealing with the trust, you can do oral and on the spot. And so what happens is they're actually giving them jurisdiction when they don't have it. It gives them mandate when they've actually been dissolved. You've submitted yourself, right? Not in a rights on a loyal venue, but in a commercial venue. So you're saying, I want to trade. I'm offering this for, and I'm putting it in your hands to authorize this trade, right? Because that's what you're really saying. You know, now they know already that all of the properties, all persons under the 14th Amendment, all corporate entities belong to the Roman Curia, have already been hypothecated. So it means any actions they take anyway, even at the inception of the action, it is already under hypothecation. That's why I read House Joint Resolution 192, right? And so now the only way that you can, in that venue, properly use uniform commercial codes is if, one, you're in your proper person, pre-established. Two, that you recognize all so-called bills are statements of account. You must reference the account of the estate in the processes of your actions. It can't just be creditor-debtor argument. You must say, Moorish estate. Such and such person, Joe Belaski, doing business as governor of some province, etc. You are hereby assigned as trustee over my estate in this matter only, limited to this matter, and you're charged to discharge this estate as you've been doing any daggone way, with no misdirectives of benefit to yourself or any other parties unknown to me in this contract, etc. And if there is any transfers against the estate, you must let me know so that I can put my signature to it before you can make any other activities. Meanwhile, give me $5,000 for my time being down here. And that's how you know, if you understand what this is really, when you're talking about discharge, how those things are really supposed to be used, that's how it's supposed to be used. And logically ain't gonna go with that, because what you're doing, you're dismissing the administrator. Because that's all they're doing is administrating your trust.
And you can't satisfy the debt either.
You can, because it ain't a debt. That's the whole point. See, this the whole point. They're in debt, and they're trying to convert the debt they created under their fraud on you because you're the one with the estate. This is why people need to know the real history.
But when you agree to discharge a debt, what you're doing is agreeing to be in the position of a debtor.
Exactly.
This is what you got to realize.
Because there is no debt to the legitimate republic.
But you're validating
the debt is the democracy order.
You're acknowledging the debt.
You're acknowledging it and validating it by saying, I agree that I owe you.
That's right.
Well, that
There you go.
Needs to be discharged in the first place.
That's exactly correct. And now, and with the public law, they gave what are called the remedy, but that only applies to Europeans. See, the problem that has, whenever we're walking, and it's difficult, this is where the work comes in for all of us. And I know with most people, and I understand that they always look for the easy way out. This is not easy. This is a formidable foe. Do you understand what I'm saying? We must show ourselves worthy of the estate of our forefathers, because we have shown ourselves unworthy. When we walk into any of them offices, this is what they're seeing. Someone that's an heir to the republic form of government messing up our corrupt form. All of their systems are set up for the democracy order. All of their forms are colored to serve the democracy under the secret Treaty of Verona. There is no design for the republic, because the design was to overthrow the republic. And so the uniform commercial codes, they won't say the commercial codes. They'll say the uniform commercial codes, that U part is their agreement tied to that secret Treaty of Verona to undermine you.
Tied into the 14th Amendment. Keep this in
Exactly.
mind. Under the 14th Amendment, all human activities is considered commercial.
Yes, and all rights are considered crimes.
Remember this. This is very important, because
It's free.
people don't understand their position on how they look at you when they first meet you.
Two things, dead and property.
But it's all commercial. It could be a crime. All crimes is considered commercial. all human activities is considered commercial. Why? Because all human activity is basically been put on the market as collateral. So therefore, it's already accounted for. So therefore, they have to train you to act and think a certain way because they have a commercial interest in your activity. So they have to train you to act, to talk, to live, to eat, to work. They have to train you to behave because your activity benefits them. You
Now
understand that?
Interjection.
It's commercial.
Keep in mind, with the Rockefellers setting up the General Education Board in 1902. Keep that in mind, and keep in mind their fundamental byline is to make the people docile. So this is why Drew Ali says what? When you send your children to them schools, they just learn how to jump through the hoops better.
It's training.
Yeah, go ahead.
I understand completely what you mean because they're not focused on us anymore. We demonstrated, just like Taj pointed out earlier, with all of the marks that we accept, we demonstrated that we are asleep. They're aiming for our children.
And just keep this in mind. When you see a lot of people, right, no matter what venue they're operating on, they have a tendency to operate on a venue that they have to convince the European of something, and the European already knows who you are. He's occupying Morocco.
Of course.
You know, our concepts of thinking that we got to make him understand something. No, we got to make our family members understand this. We got to convince ourselves. This is why a lot of times we tell Moors, a lot of things you do today you will not be doing tomorrow. We're really in training. In concept to really clean the problem that we have really today is that things are accelerating around the world very quickly, and the Moors are behind the curve. Meaning that we've been treadmilling it for so many generations that how do you say, the last card is out of the deck, and we still playing like they're going to deal again.
And that's part of the strategy.
Do you
keep
understand?
Behind. As soon as you catch up to something, they've been on move to the next.
This is where the nations of the earth are dumping the UST bonds to isolate them. In other words, the only way the nations of the earth have taken the position that the only way to get rid of the beast is to not feed them anymore. A lot of things have not been done because they don't want us destroyed in the process either. But they need us because we're the heirs to the estate. But the world can't wait any longer because it's now contaminating the planet, and it's getting so bad that in order to stop the calamities that's going to hit the earth, that's going to affect everybody, they have to isolate the beast. So what you see that's taking place in y'all, now what y'all got up there in Canada, Port Richey, what's the name of that port?
It's called Harborfront.
The seaport.
Yeah, it's called Harborfront.
Yeah, well, guess what?
Queens Key. Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, are they so-called having a strike?
Not yet.
Well, they should be, because it ain't really a strike, it's a blockade. Anyway, all up the west coast from Canaan land down to Mexico, there's a blockade. Now go on the website and look at the twin cities of Los Angeles and the island, Long Beach. And you will see that there's ships that are out to sea almost 3 miles out, averaging 1,000 feet long, and they're talking about longshoreman strike. No, it's a blockade. In Philadelphia area, Shacklamaxim is the real name of that area. You got oil tankers that were sitting in the water since November that just left 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. There's drip, 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 drip. That's how they were offloading. 650,000 gallons, and 5 more ships come in doing the same thing. They're choking it out. It's to give you all time, those of you who are conscious, to get your families prepared. Now, if you don't prepare your families, well, the prophet already told you, it's on right now, it's not coming, it's on as I speak. 29 ports on the west coast. How much is 2 and 9?
11,
Huh?
11.
All right. So 9, 11 on the second one, huh? It's a countermeasure to what they have done. They're starving the beast. Now, if we don't prepare ourselves, we're going to reap the same consequences. That includes the unusual pattern of weather you have here on the East Coast in North America. And I know y'all getting it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're going to choke them out. Now, what you have is a lot of them that have already capitulated, and you got some of them in underwater prisons near the Caribbeans. And a few of the Adums, which are underground military bases here in North America, have already been sabotaged. Do you understand? They're going to choke them out. And you got a few holdouts, and you're probably going to have a few more middle class or middle level bankers taking flying lessons without wings.
Yeah, that's happening.
But the deal of it is they're going to stop feeding the beast, and we have to do what we have to do to come together and really operate government. And like the Grand Sheik said, you know, what we have to do also is take this to the hedges and the highways, but we also have to do what? Get our temples in order to show competence in governmental operations to prepare to take our places amongst the affairs of men. It's another reason why we're hitting on these points.
Peace, brother. Yes, Islam.
Emmanuel? You good? Islam Moors, did y'all have any more questions?
I want to, if you got a few minutes after you finish, I'm gonna hit on the Clearfield Doctrine a little bit. Keep in mind that that's based on the 1871 principle.
Yeah, we're still here, bro. Go ahead.
Islam.
All right. This is to clear up. Understand the UCCs are still based on this principle where people know what's going on. Hold on. Now the Clearfield Doctrine is named after a city area in Philadelphia area. That's where the case took place, but that's not the name of the person upon who that document is based. Now, the Clearfield Doctrine is this. Listen carefully, take notes, you all. The United States Supreme Court in the Clearfield Trust Company versus the United States. Governments descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private corporate commercial paper, which is Federal Reserve notes, and securities, which are checks, is concerned. And for purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. And analyzing the Clearfield Trust Company versus United States, that's 318 U.S. 363-371, 1942, and the principles of law upon which the Supreme Court decision is based. The legal basis of de jure Constitution law upon which the Clearfield Doctrine is based is the fact that the unconstitutional actions via the support and sanctioning of counterfeit as committed by the oath-bound officers was fraudulent. Consequently, their formerly valid authorities delegated to their offices, became null and void. Their limitedly delegated authorities' duties and responsibilities to uphold and to support the American Constitution had been breached. And all offices, acts thereafter done by them via the said offices and authorities were deduced to acts or actions done under a color of authority, a color of office, and under a color of law. And as a reference point in positive law, note Article 1, Section 10 of the American Constitution, and recognize the treasonous criminal violations made and committed against the American Constitution, being the supreme law of the land. And keep in mind, when you're talking about the American Constitution, you're talking about the human Constitution, a principle of law, maxim that's used universally on the planet. American Constitution, Article 1, Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin as tender in payment of debts, pass any bills of attainder, ex post facto law, or impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. And no state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duties or of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Now, clearly and indisputably, officers and officials and the representatives doing business as the United States government were, have, and been, and are presently in breach of trust against the offices they hold or held, and are indisputably guilty of misprision and have been found wanting in their failures to enforce the American Constitution. And such criminal acts and breaches of trust are not only declared by law to be treasonous, but the said breaches stand as stark established evidence that the said officers and representatives at large reneged against their official oaths and failed to sustain integrity in their fiduciary duties, and theretofore they have abandoned their offices and have abridged their obligations to the trust as vested in them via their seats and in the de jure constitutional republic's government, in laws such violating acts, whether executive, legislative, or judiciary in nature, are referred to as a breach of trust, arbitrary, and misprision of treason. And when at any time or instance the public officers, public servants, or politicians entrusted with the duties of any public office forsake, desert, abridge, etc., or violate his or her official oath, which is lawfully required of all public offices, then such an actor or actors have abandoned the powers and authority vested in the said office, and at any such instance, the perpetrator loses all and any authority or sovereignty vested in him or her by the limitedly granted jurisdictional powers and trusts vested in the seat of the office. And essentially, such an actor or actors have abdicated and abandoned the office and officers held by them, and have lost the limited powers granted in them. At such time or venture, the actors by his or her own unclean hands and actions becomes not a public officer or public servant, but like any other private person is void of any authority to act or to authorize any powers or duties vested in the abandoned position of public trust or public office. Just knowing that, you see the con of anybody getting them to apostille their so-called UCCs. Meaning that it is no different than you keep going, somebody punched the guy at the gas station in the eye, locked him in the bathroom, and he's out there pumping gas, and he's not paying for my gas. And you stick your card in there, and you seal your numbers and everything else, and whatever's going in the pocket's not going in your account. Then in other words, they take unauthorized persons to verify something that's dealing with an allodial account on the allodial right of property. Commercial transfer. That's under the Roman Curia of the popes. What you should be doing is charging them with, I think they call it, they're absconding taxes because they're members of the Roman Curia and they're not reporting. And keep in mind too, look this up. Pope Francis ends the Christian doctrine of discovery. That's what they've been using as an authority. Keep that in mind. And so, therefore, I'm saying over and over again, I understand the people, all of us, looking for remedy. But I'm also showing that not what we say, but what their own law says and their own documents say, that when we're going after, when we're going after them thinking that we're getting remedy under the UCCs, they're still playing us. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't do them. I'm saying we're still getting played. So if there's anything that we should be doing is enforcing the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, national and international. And this is why, by necessity, that we plan to do the international suit to make sure that the clerks file our proper papers, our proclamation, because what it does is establish the heirship. That's the reason why they're upset. Because once you establish the heir, all of the other stuff they're doing is dead. Because what you're dealing with is trust law, and trust law deals with estate law. And when the heirs show themselves competent, there ain't no hoops to jump through. They must transfer the estate. We just got to make sure that the Moors are competent. That doesn't dismiss anybody's position. It's just giving everybody a more clear view from a law position to look at this whole stuff.
Islam, thank you, Mark.
Islam, brother. Any other questions?
I think we're good. I think we're clear.
Islam.
Yeah.
So,
Love you all.
So we gonna,
Islam and peace.
Give it up for the clap.
Islam, question?
Islam, Mark.
About the issue with the county clerks as far as they're not respecting. I look at it like two issues. One dealing with intelligence, and also another one dealing with courage.
Mm-hmm.
How when we present ourselves to them, where we're not asking them to do something for us, is where they have to do it.
They're obligated.
Yeah. It's not like we're asking them.
Exactly.
And a lot of times, the way we look at it is like they're in a position of authority.
Yeah. It's like
And this is where the Grand Sheik
still
keeps
asking
saying
for permission.
we have to understand if the people in general don't know these people's obligations, this is why the subordinate are interchanged. And when they see that, it's like a wolf smelling chicken blood. When they recognize, you come, can you give me a piece of my own peanut butter sandwich?
Yeah, I gotta borrow something
Please,
back to that.
spot steal it. And they already know that you don't understand what the prophet didn't brought you.
Wow.
And you understand. And at that time, you're incompetent. Because remember, for someone to be descendable, they must be competent. Minority is a legal word for grown-ups that have the mentality of minors. And our people have been told by their leader guys that it means numbers of Afrocentricity. They do. It means incompetent. It's a legal status position. Islam question.
Well,
Say loud, cause
it's already, it should have been established that the difference between minority and majority, it's the majority that's the minor in their thinking and don't have a clue. So this is why they're classified as minorities, because they know it's more of us than them, but it's more of us that don't know. So they classify us like children. And it's the minority that is the majority that has a clue.
I'm gonna give me the Black's law. I'm gonna show you the relationship. Go ahead.
After him, I want to.
It's the minority that's the majority that has a clue of who you are and how everything works. So they use what you don't know against you, and they call you minorities. Has nothing to do with skin complexion. It's a political ban.
Islam. Islam. Also, in closing, back to the county recorders and the filings are affidavits. Now, trust me, I've been really stern on this for a lot of years, and I don't budge from this department. We have to exercise our right to redress our grievances. The fact that we have been branded Negro, Black, and Colored is a grievance. We've been injured, we've been deprived, the whole nine. So therefore, when you deprived us of a right, when you have been injured, you have a natural right to redress your grievances. All right? Now, in law, that's done within what they call a civil action or a suit. Just follow me on this, and we're going to have, for the next class we do, Grand Sheik, this is going to set the thesis for that. When you are proclaiming your nationality, you are doing multiple things other than just declaring what your nationality is for the public record. Listen to me, and this is what Moors are misunderstanding this process. But you're also rescinding contracts. You're also disassociating yourselves with the straw man. You're disclaiming the straw man.
While claiming an interest of information on it without claiming to be it or sanctioning it. That's an ex-rel position.
You're also establishing your trust. You're also tying yourself back to the citizenship of the land.
To the constitutional fold of government.
You're tying yourself back into part and parcel of we the people. You're doing so many things, but it's a civil action. It's a suit. It's a complaint that you're doing. You're initiating a suit.
And claim it's also a reversion. Write this down. A reversion of estate, quote unquote, and look that up.
Now, I knew you got a question. Just hold that thought. Let me get through this because this is very important. It's a process that has to be done to proclaim your nationality. Moors look at this as they're changing their name, and that's not what you're doing. You are proclaiming your nationality. Within the process of proclaiming your nationality, you have the right to correct or change the name that you ex-rel or used to be known as. That's a right. They also give that privilege for other foreigners, foreign-born subjects, that come and naturalize into the United States or to the U.S. because they're not naturalizing into the United States. They're only naturalizing into the U.S. private corporation. Keep in mind that. Anybody naturalized. That comes under the 14th Amendment. It has nothing to do with the land or the government of the republic.
Or anything organic.
Exactly. So now, when they naturalize, they also given the opportunity, but it's under the privilege now, to change their name. This is why you see Chinese people who come over here and set up shop, and then they go by the name of John.
Yeah,
John Wayne, John Cheng.
Yeah.
Bob.
Bobby Chu.
Tony.
Yeah.
You understand? These are not Chinese names. But they have these names because when they was naturalized, that's automatically a part of the process that you're given and they even encourage you to do so that they can westernize you. So they tell you your name, because they say their names are too complicated, and therefore it's hard to communicate with the Americans here. So they suggest that you adopt a so-called English name. That way you can get acclimated to this society a little bit better. This is how they talk to them.
And in doing so, what it does, it hypothecates it to the Pope under the secret treaty of Verona, looking like they're just doing it for convenience.
Absolutely, because name and property go together. So their jurisdiction and their claim of property also has claim on language and names. This is another reason why we choose a name or an appellation that's more in harmony with our ancient forefathers. Because when you do that, what you do is you break the relationship and the tie with the slaveholder. You understand? And the slave master, who suggested those names in the first place. So as long as you hold on to the names, like the prophet says, I don't know why people keep clinging to the names and what? And principles that are what? Unconstitutional. Or delude to slavery. Certain names that we have used or are still using the allude to slavery. You got to understand slavery being in a condition, not the Slavics, but the condition of slavery means being subordinate to another. That's what that means. So anyhow, speeding up the process here. So proclaiming your nationality, we're declaring that through affidavits. Affidavits is an affirmation from the individual, from the natural person, declaring himself to be free and equal. Now what you're doing is you're also showing allegiance to the constitutional body of power that you're declaring. It's also referred to as an oath of allegiance. You're taking an oath to be considered free and equal. You have to declare that through what they call affirmation or oath of allegiance. That's a process that Abraham Lincoln started to implement before they took him out. He did it under the process of what he called it an oath of allegiance, but it was a pardon for being, they said for the so-called slaves, or what he said, the Negro, blacks, and colored, the so-called slaves, in order them to be considered free and equal, once they was released from the plantation or from that idea of slavery, they now had to take an oath of amnesty. An oath of amnesty, which is the same as an oath of allegiance. That oath of amnesty was for the individual who was so-called free from this, or manumitted from the slaveholders, for themselves to take their own oath of affirmation to support the Constitution of the United States. Because like Drew Ali said, in order to be a citizen, you must declare or proclaim your free national name. He said being born here does not make you a citizen. One has to proclaim it. Proclaiming it is the same as declaring it. That is a oath of amnesty or oath or allegiance. For one to be a citizen of a constitutional construction, they must declare and take an oath to support the Constitution of that body politic. It's the same thing. So he's saying as Moors, just because we are the heirs of this land, we must declare that through a lawful process called oath of allegiance. So our affidavits, no matter how they're worded, declaration of nationality, proclamation, however they're worded, the process is the same, the concept is the same. We are taking an oath of allegiance to support our domestic Moorish government, body politic, under the divine constitution, and we're also taking an oath of allegiance to support the free national constitution of the United States of America. Until you take an oath of affirmation to do that, you cannot be considered a citizen of that national constitution. Drew Ali said it. Abraham Lincoln said it. You gotta understand that. So the documents serve as an oath of allegiance. Even within the so-called naturalization process, once again, they have what they call a certificate of citizenship. So also that's what your proclamation document is serving under the Republic though. Their certificate of citizenship is still under the color. Absolutely, under the democracy. The citizenship just means member. Just so you understand that. Citizenship means member. So when they say citizen of the U.S., what they're saying is member of the U.S. But that's a corporation. That has nothing to do with nationalization. That has nothing to do with government. That has nothing to do with land. You're only becoming a member of that corporation. And then that's when they give you privileges according to their corporate discretion. That's the only thing that's doing. Speed it up. When we go to the county clerk's office, the county clerk being a constitutional officer, right, elected by we the people, within the county jurisdiction or government in which we live, that's called local government. What did the prophet say? He says we must declare or proclaim our nationality within the government in which you live. You don't live in the United States of America government. That's a national conception. The state, you could say you live within the geographical territory of the state, but that's still broad. But when he say local government is known through your county your county is more ancient than your state. Did everybody get that? Your local government is your county government. That's your first government. The county predates the state. So when we proclaim and do stuff on a governmental level, it really is done on a local level first. And then if you want to send that notification on the state level for the state to record it in their records, that's optional. But your real immediate government is on your local level, not your state level. A lot of Moors get that twisted.
Yes.
County is ancient. It's even in the scriptures in the Bible. Islam. So we're about to come to a closing here. But your affidavits are fact. Your proclamations are also when you submit these documents, you're actually taking a civil action. Civil mean from an organic civil, not from civil rights. But civil just means the action or the role of a citizen. Civil pertains to citizenship. And being a true national citizen, you can involve yourself in an organic or a common law civil action. So when you are proclaiming your name and nationality, you're actually taking a civil action. A civil action is a process of law for an individual or citizen to redress their grievances. So you're actually you're doing this in the nature of a suit. You are suing the state, the slaveholder, the principal, the agents. You are taking a civil action to take suit against any parties that was interested in you being branded and you being branded as a corporate wardship nom de guerre of the state of New Jersey or whatever state that Moors is doing business in. You're taking a suit against this. You're taking a suit against the straw man.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have to sue the straw man in all of its principles. Remember, it's a corporation, right? So if McDonald's injured you, just look at this. If McDonald's injured you, or one of McDonald's employees, this went out. That's done. There's nothing we can do about that. But if McDonald's or one of his agents injured you, deprived you of something, from whatever form, if it's physical or punitive, you have a right to redress your grievance, right? Wouldn't you sue McDonald's? Isn't that the process? So just taking the complaint and going to mail it to people, certified mail, is that the process of a suit?
The notification of it
Is
the early stage of it.
no. If someone injure you and you want to take suit, can you just mail a complaint? Can you just draft up a complaint and just send it to the various departments of law?
Oh, they have to be served.
Okay, so that will not constitute lawfully a suit, right?
Has to be filed and then served.
So you have to go through proper channels to institute a suit at law, correct? Process. That's what your proclamations are serving as the initial process for a suit. That's setting the stage for a suit. And any suit at law has to be properly filed for what? The public record. It has to be put on record. Record meaning a recording. But anyone cannot record documents. Everyone doesn't have the jurisdiction and the lawful obligation to record documents. You have to go to a public record. Where is the public record? The county clerk. Why?
Have to go to the clerk because it's an elected.
Exactly.
Elected to
They
do
were
so.
set up and elected by the people to deal with recordings.
That's right.
And that's
So-
why the Europeans trying to block the records, because what it does, just a see, this is what, let's keep it simple, because we keep going,
Yeah.
we got to deal with aspects because people are different at different levels with this information. But we have to really keep focus. What is the focus? This is the focus. You have an estate, hereditaments, which deal with things with land, material things, and incorporeal, which means, poetry, intellectual property, stuff like that, etc. That's hereditaments. The entire relationship here is one of occupation and administration of an estate by default of that occupation. Still, the principle of estate law comes in. So what you have is heirs to the estate that, even though it's been in a process of escheating, which means there's been a deliberate interruption or obstruction in their capacity to be declared descendable by their mental state, etc., mainly that. In law, when the heirs to the estate, this is universal principle, demonstrate competency, the trustees or FOFR or administrator of the estate must release the estate to the heirs. The proclamation papers demonstrate that competence and a claim of estate and a claim of occupation to their fiduciary duties. All of those things collectively. It kind of like, it blocks them, it just slams them with a sledgehammer. Now, the deal of it is that people who have these instruments must understand what they got in their hand. And when they don't demonstrate a harmony with it, they're looking at the position this person's incompetent. Or they're going 730 them or something like that, or their language don't change. You understand what I'm saying to you? And logically, if it's not in your heart, you can't defend it.
Right.
But to defend it, you must know law and history too. This is why we expand them and make it a teaching tool when actually it can be simple. But knowing that we have so many traders amongst ourselves, and knowing that the people need to be educated quickly, we don't have the option, we don't have the comfort zone of tiptoeing, because these people aren't competent. Don't mean they're not intelligent. They don't know the history. They don't know law. They don't know law and history even goes together. So you have a bunch of Moors that are suffering all kinds of nigger problems. You got the forum that's been set up for them for 100 years. They haven't, as a general rule, properly used it yet, which is, in law, means incompetent. Then they keep debating their beliefs, and it's got nothing to do with beliefs. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then they won't put their leadership in check because they haven't even filed their own law, caveat emptor. They won't file that because they don't know Constitution. And so what happens is, it means their representatives are compromised, and you can't do that because then you're insubordinate, right? But you're not insubordinate to a colorable leader. You're insubordinate to the true law. So if you're not willing to clean up your own house, then that lets the European off the hook. This is the danger of Moorish Americans not putting their leadership in check. And so what we do, we get trapped because of our own biases, because, that's my uncle. No, it's not your uncle. That seat belongs to the people. Don't get the seat and positions confused with the persons who are holding them.
And his duties.
Fiduciary duties, Islam.
So for, I intend on, say, going to like a freeholders meeting. Would that be like?
Well, go ahead. Yes, you should,
Okay,
because you're a freeholder. This is what's happening. You're a freeholder de jure, going to a freeholder de facto to learn from him, who's running your offices. Because nationals are the freeholders. See, even these concepts, they have to dawn on the people. But you can't force it on them because it has to be real.
Right. And that's why I was asking, because now being that these freeholders really, they're in charge of
these pseudo freeholders. Stop calling. Now remember this. Remember this. This is what we got to remember too. Please. And I know, because we all have to work this. We do too. If you call them freeholders without qualification, you've assigned them. The offices don't exist for them.
Now listen, Tops, before you even go there,
Right.
and I say this to you all the time, right? You ask Ken, should you go to the freeholders meeting? you're at a freeholders meeting right now.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Do you acknowledge that?
I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that. I am a freeholder. I am here amongst freeholders where we're conducting a meeting.
But do you know the purpose? Do you know the station of a freeholder? What is a freeholder?
A freeholder.
Because
No, see,
you-
as soon as you wrinkled your
Yeah.
eyebrows, stop. Stop right at that point. Law dictionary. Stop. Don't. As soon as you wrinkled your eyebrows, two things. Don't start reaching. Remember the whole dynamics. What was that fourth?
put
It's
it
the
up
third edition. It's right there.
Don't be Harold. That's
No,
right
it's
over
here.
here. Your button right side. It's your button on top of that.
There you go. All right. There you go. Now, see why Drew Ali said every temple must have a school? You walk in this temple, we'll give you documents to support our arguments. Why? Because that's a requirement of that charter. Because you come here to your freeholders meeting that you got to be told is a freeholders meeting, and then you want to go to some pseudo freeholders meeting.
Talking
Tell
about
them they're
But we
freeholders.
can't argue that with you. You have to come to that understanding, and we're not going to knock you because we're only servants. We're your equals. Forget the daggone title; it belongs to the people. We got to get the people out of their arrogance, and don't think that we're trying to talk at them. We're talking to you, but the responsibility belongs to all of us. And until we're competent, you go out into the world, they're going to punch you in your eye. Because, I mean, Susie ain't going to college at your expense. That means they ain't going to have the house in the Poconos. They're not going to be going to ski resorts
They're
and
not
breaking
going
their
to be
leg
in
and
the
not worrying
Hamptons.
about it.
They
They don't, you know why they go ski and do something? They don't care if they get broken as long as they survive. They're going to get the best care at your expense.
as long as we keep clinging to the names and principles that delude the slavery,
We're doing what?
they
Acquiescing.
Gonna
can
do it,
keep
that's
going on
right.
vacation.
When
right.
you call him white man, you're calling him sovereign.
You call
And
yourself-
when he acts like it,
Yep.
you shouldn't be mad, should you?
And,
So
and that's right.
Our biggest problem is get our family members to stop doing it, saying it's not just a matter of opinion. It's not just a matter of, it's incorrect, historically. You just call him sovereign. And because you're the heir, all things that come from your mouth, even though you're incompetent, they will take it like
All
you're
against
competent.
you. Right.
And then use it against you. And our people don't know that because they don't know themselves and they don't know the real politics. This is what's happening. Trustee position, because that's all it is. You say the wrong things, they accept it. You say the wrong things, then sometimes they ignore it. They're only doing it because they know that you don't understand. You call them officer. They don't have that office, but since you said they'll accept it, now they start acting like an officer. Well, the officer did this and this. Well, you just assigned him. Didn't you know that? Yeah, but the officer, he ain't supposed to. You keep giving him power. You're supposed to say, what's your badge number, employee number?
Right.
Freddie Jones. And then when you're in court, you something like that, if they impose a court session on you by kidnapping you, some say, well, I was traveling down the street on the land of my forefathers, and this foreign European, I think he's a member of the, suit on, he's wearing a gun, member of the gang of New York
Right,
that
right.
spread across the country,
Right, exactly.
came
Yeah.
assaulting me and my liberties in violation of our American Constitution, of which he is bound. And of course the lawman's oath that he's required to take. If y'all don't have a copy, I've got a copy right here. Into the evidence. You start talking to him like he's
That's-
a foreigner,
that's
because he
right.
is a foreigner.
You know how you would talk to your children?
That's
You
how
speak
talk
with
to them.
authority, right?
Yeah.
You tell them, no, you're going to listen to me. I'm the guardian here. I'm the parent. But you see the tone of voice, that the confidence you have to talk to your own child because they're within your jurisdiction.
Yeah, as soon as they
But
say
you don't, you change your whole language when you speak to somebody else's child.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
as soon as they say that, they say they're proper.
Yeah, and don't mean you have to speak arrogant. Yes, you speak intelligent now, but you speak intelligent with confidence that you are who you saying you are. If I walk in there with my turban, my fez, my jalabiyas, however I'm, definitely however Moorish apparently I'm going to be, I'm going to speak as if I'm in my right to do what I'm doing. If I'm coming down there saying that I need you to file this document, then I'm saying it because I know you're supposed to, and I have all my information to back me up just in case I'm challenged on it. You understand? So I'm not asking to do something that I'm not sure if it should be done or not. And if we come in there with that type of tone, they can read that. Just like a dog can sense fear. If you walk into these agencies with fear, they're going to read it and they're going to take advantage of it. And that's what happens. If they can see it within your eyes, your disposition, they can tell. And trust me, when you are who you say you are, they can pick up on that too.
Yeah, you look different, you sound different, you have a presence with you. You don't walk through that door alone. You walk through that door with Allah on your side, and that glow, that presence is felt.
But the freeholder, did you get that definition?
Yeah, I have it here.
What is it?
Freehold, an estate, in land, or other real property.
An estate.
Stop right there. An
Stop.
estate.
An estate.
Now,
So you calling someone a freeholder? What you saying?
Now look at this.
Did you say in
Look
a
at this.
state or estates?
Go ahead.
An estate.
And A-N.
Now, and so now stop right there. Stop right there.
Or land.
Now, Drawley makes reference to you in your lost estate, don't he?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Now, take that same law book, go to status. I want you to pay attention to this.
Let him finish reading that definition first.
Oh, yeah, but I think that's enough.
All right.
No, because we're making reference of a state. Go to status.
Okay.
Go to status, and I want you to read status, and go to the last.
But there's one part of that definition
Oh,
also
yeah.
need to ring bell in his
Yeah,
mind.
go ahead. Finish your
Finish
statement,
freeholder,
then.
please.
An estate in land or other real property of uncertain
Hold on.
valuation.
An estate in land and other real property, right?
Real property.
When you go
Does it
down
say
there filing your
does it say-
documents,
does
they're
it say-
telling you that there's not fileable because it does not pertain to real property. They're saying you're not a freeholder. Number one. Keep reading.
Keep
That
going.
is either of inheritance or which may possibly last for the life of the tenant at the least.
Now you see the common law, how it must be used to trump the ens legis, that people keep trying to do with the UCCs, and it's about bloodline and estate.
It's always been.
But an estate that deals with an estate that's occupied through inheritance. Listen to that.
Right.
So the key is, if you're referring to them as the freeholder, you're saying that they
Yeah,
inherited that
inheritance.
estate.
Right. So that's
And by you being the heir, you're telling them as the administrators that you're not yet competent.
Of you knowing that
That's
you're
why when nationalization is not just declaring your nationality, there's civic instruction that go with it because your language must change.
Yes.
This is why people who really understand this can immediately recognize that these people aren't competent. This is where some Moors go in and they start looking at UCCs and everything. They go out there and start stuff, and then the man locks them up, give them 730s and everything, and they say, I put in my paperwork. That's a qualified statement. It don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? You got to see what they did. And 9 times out of
What
10,
they
you will
filed, right.
find that their language does not harmonize with the instruments that they put in there, because there's a black language for slaves.
Right.
You know, how do you know how they say, you know, they used to say in the old days, and you're all young, so you may not hear this much. They say it's better to be silent and throw the fool than open your
Open your
mouth
mouth and
move
make
on
it
down.
obvious that you.
And what we do, we get stuff, they'll get UCCs and stuff like that, and look at the power in it. Say, oh snap, I
Yeah.
got this.
They supposed to
And
do
they go
this.
out talking black.
Or,
Power of
and
silence.
Taj, don't forget this.
No, it's not the silence.
When they
It's
look-
that when you make a claim, there's a counterclaim because it's already been hypothecated, which is why we're reading that. They've already got a claim on it. So now you got to prove that you're an heir in order to supersede their claim, and you can't do it with the common law. I mean, pardon me,
You
the
can't do it
Roman law.
with
You can't
commercial
do it
law.
with the
You
civil
can't
law.
do it.
You can't do it with the civil law.
No.
You can't do it with a commercial law.
You can only do it
can
through
only
your
do it with the
inherited
common law.
birthright.
And so you must go back to the ancient traditions and customs of your forefathers, and now you're enforcing the treaty that does what? Article 6 supersedes the Constitution. And guess what? There's only one resounding treaty, long-lasting than every other treaty, and that's the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. And if you ain't more, you have no claim. You see what's happening to the Europeans. The freedmen's got all the information, and they're discovering they're up against the wall. Their argument is totally correct, but they lost their birthright. As soon as they start playing this white game. Now you understand, like, if you really understand law, you understand why certain things take place. Remember when Facebook went IPO a couple years ago, and the guy Zuckerberg's partner immediately went to Switzerland and nationalized, and
Oh, that's what he did?
yes,
Oh, I didn't know
he
that.
didn't file no UCC1 financial statement.
Oh,
You know, but I'm just saying, if people really understand, you know, you gotta follow what wealthy Europeans do because they really tell you what's going on.
But
it's the
follow-
middle class that keep on thinking that
Follow
they
follow
can
the
use
law.
UCCs to make
Right.
the claim.
Yeah.
Law principle would
Follow
be.
the law. Like automatically, we should recognize the actions other people take because the actions they take is in harmony with natural law.
With natural law.
You understand?
so,
Because it's not the European.
Does this go in some pot or something?
so,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, you just leave it there for now.
Prior to proclaiming, like, you know, I did say I did the UCC. Now that I'm in the process of going through the whole proclamation and everything, do you think I should terminate?
No, what you should do is study.
No, it's called.
Don't
yeah.
do stuff.
Okay.
In other words, don't see. In other words, like this. You know, it's like kind of like saying, you know, I was thinking, you know, because I move like this, you know, and I move like this. You know, I was thinking, I jumped in the ring. Do you think I should jab? Oh, you're in the
I
ring?
think you should stay out the ring.
In the ring?
I think you should stay out the ring.
You know, I'm in the
Just
ring.
be honest.
Don't
Don't
start
even get in
doing
there.
stuff. You know,
You get in the ring and then you come into the corner
and it's
in
just-
between rounds.
and it
Don't jump in the
mean
ring
that
talking
you
about what I
ain't
do
right,
next. Yeah.
Don't jump in the, you know, don't jump in the
As soon
ring
as that
and talk
bell
about,
ring, boy,
should I
you-
jab?
Don't be going to the corner in between rounds talking about,
So
look,
that-
man,
hey,
I
Todd,
got myself into
Todd,
something.
I'm in the
I'm
ring.
gonna-
Excuse me, Todd, what do I do next? Stop.
Yeah, and the guy punching you right in the head, ref smacking you upside the head with his sneaks, you know, and you come back in the ring, man, I think the ref jumped me. You know, you was like this, taking selfies.
He had his counterclaim. He had his counterclaim ready for you.
Yeah.
And you put your original claim
Just
in.
like when you make a claim, make your default with it when you make your instrument.
Just like you said, just like chess, you gotta think 6, 7, 8 moves ahead.
And how do you do that? You supposed to know what the pieces do.
No, how do you move?
You ain't even in the like.
So
don't,
even
don't
if you
hop on the
lose,
chessboard. What's that? A king?
Even
What's
if
that?
you lose, it's an honorable loss.
Right.
Don't lose being dumb, talking about, yeah, man, ask the brother, man, because I came to the class, man, these brand new checkers. I lost. And I mean, I'm these the good ones, man. I can play me some checkers. And then everybody
Peace,
says,
Ali.
brothers, this is chess match.
Hey, that's what I'm
Right,
like.
that
to
check.
be in the
The
neighborhood.
board looks
It's the
similar.
same. It's a similar board.
You know, it's sort of like, you know, people keep coming to the basketball game with
Alright, bro.
football. Yeah, man, I got my
Fit.
new skin
Yeah.
here. Yeah, we're gonna roll, man. Come on, y'all. And everybody say,
Yeah.
This is
I don't
basketball.
think so.
Got-
Hey,
got
we
cleats.
boys, man. Come on, man. You don't go to football
Don't put cleats on the
with
basketball.
a basketball, and you don't
So,
go to basketball.
Moral
and
story is
football.
come prepared.
Right, right.
You know, and before, because it's an action. Just think of this: every move you make is an action. So for every action, there's a reaction. So if you whatever action you take, you gotta know that law of compensation, something's gonna follow. So if you're not sure about an action, don't take the action.
Because once you do, remember the spotlight. You know, it's like saying, it's like going smacking Goliath, right? And saying, you think he gonna smack me back?
I think he
Or
gonna
did
step
you
on
know that
you.
lump on the side of your head already? You understand?
Did you smack him yet? I just smacked him.
Because if we keep getting beat up, and then they start thinking the Moorish movement don't work.
That's
their
what it is.
concepts
That's what
wrong.
they say. They always say
You get
that.
You understand?
discouraged
And then
because
they
you
start,
think something
this is why,
don't work.
but the real
But
deal
you
is they
listen to
haven't
so
really
and so,
studied
they
it.
told
But
you
it's
that you
not
could
their
take this
fault
and
so
do
much
this and
as
that,
it
never
is
didn't explain to you
been
how it works.
COINTELPRO operatives who have been misadministering the Moorish movement, deliberately hiding certain key information and therefore causing people to lose faith in the movement because they see colorable activities and corruption, which is not the Moorish movement,
No, it's not.
which is COINTELPRO operations. But then you have a lot of good Moors that keep on pussyfooting around because they don't want to charge these people because they're their boys, or they're their aunt, or they're their uncle.
I don't
They're
care.
killing
That's
your
right.
babies.
That's right.
Do you understand? And so what we have is the Moorish movement, which is the cure, been around 100 years, and we're discussing now things that should have been discussed 55 years ago as a standard of operations, which means y'all should have already been coming on board talking about redevelopment someplace of stuff that you already administrated. And you know, well, you know,
It's long.
you know,
we just gonna close out officially, and then we're gonna dialogue after
Hey
that.
man,
We have the
can I,
option.
before we break ranks, man, can I get a group photo?
Let me just close
I
out
gotta go to
officially,
New
just
York.
giving all our Moors honor, and we want to close with a prayer, just stay in harmony
Come
with
on,
the ether
brother.
plane.
we're gonna have a group photo.
Islam, we're gonna just close with a prayer.
We're gonna close in prayer, then we do a group photo.
Islam.
Islam.
In harmony with all the prophets' proclamations, in order to read proclamations, we're just gonna close in harmony with our Moorish prayer. Islam.
Islam.
Brother Osman Ali Bey, would you lead us in the closing prayer, please?
Islam.
May Allah
May Allah
bind our hearts and minds
bind our hearts and minds
back to our ancient forefathers,
back to our ancient forefathers.
divine creed and principles.
Divine principles.
This we ask in thy holy name and the seven Elohim. Amen.
Amen.
Islam, Moors. Thank everybody for coming
Go
out.
take a group picture.
Thank everybody for tuning in. See you next week. Peace.
Yes, indeed.
Right here? Where we going to?
Let's come right here.